program coordinator for suicide prevention at the county. I have just started in this new role, but my background really is in public health, and I've spent many years focusing on different public health issues like maternal and child health, tobacco control, community health, family health, through curriculum development and training and education. I'm not a clinician, but I like to surround myself with clinicians like Maria. So Maria, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Cara. So good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Rea, and I am the Outreach and Engagement Coordinator for BHRS. And BHRS stands for Behavioral Health and Recovery Services for the County of Marin. And I am also a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Thank you, Maria. So today, in light of the topic, maybe we could open it up into the group today to find out what it is that you hope to walk away with today. If you'd like to share that, and maybe what's on your mind, anything that you'd like to share with us today.
Hi, this is Stacy. When you said the topic was managing behavior, well, I guess I understand what that means from a very, I don't want to say low level, but non-clinician type person. What is it that you mean by that? Because I have a second grade going into third grade and a sixth going into seventh. And to me, behavior could mean lots of different things, and managing certainly means many things too.
Thank you, Stacy. I'm also glad that you mentioned the grades of your children, because we had wanted to find out about that in terms of our participants today. So if you speak, if you wouldn't mind, if the others share, please feel free to let us know the grade of your youth in your family. But Maria, would you like to go ahead and answer Stacy's question?
Yeah, so thank you so much for that question. I think we're right on point. When we talk about behaviors, we're talking about a lot of different things. And when we're talking about managing, there's a lot of different strategies that we could use to manage. In the topic of today, we talked about, or the title was about using positive reinforcement. So we'll be talking about one strategy that as parents we can use, but we're not recommending this strategy to be the only way to manage behaviors. So maybe we can see if anyone has any questions, and then we can go and talk a little bit more about positive reinforcement. Anyone has anything else they would like to ask or share with us about what they would like to get out of this session?
Hi, my name is Sylvia. And the reason I decided to sign up for this workshop or event, or I don't know how you call it, is I have two nieces, 6 and almost 8. And I always am very involved in their lives, and sometimes there are so innocent enough things, and I sometimes don't know what to say or how to handle. And because the topic was parent conversation, I'm not a parent, but I'm very involved with them, so I thought it might be interesting to me, and I might get a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Sylvia. We're very happy to have you here. And even if you're not a parent, you're still a parent because you have your nieces, and I believe we all provide support. So thank you.
So it sounds like we have kids that are in the 6 to 8 year old range. Is that right? And maybe I think Stacy mentioned a 12-year-old.
That's correct.
Okay. I am also a parent, but my my parenting, I'm now parenting a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old. So I'm happy to share any of my anything that I learned and can remember when they were younger.
And that's what I believe it's the most valuable, if we all can share our experiences and talk from what we know, and what we know helps our kids. Even though I'm a licensed therapist, I know that parents are the ones that know their kids the best, and they're the ones that know exactly what helps and what doesn't. So if there's no other question, just want to be able to give more time. Okay, so like I was saying before, we'll be focusing on one strategy, that is using positive reinforcement. And I made a presentation about this topic really fast because, again, we don't have a lot of time. So can everyone see the slide screen?
Yeah.
So again, the topic for today's session is talking about supporting maladaptive behaviors in the home using positive reinforcement strategies. So some of us know what positive reinforcement is, and some of us don't. And what we mean when we say positive reinforcement is that we're encouraging a positive behavior, but by introducing something positive shortly after this happens. And this theory says that if we do that, there's more likelihood that the positive behavior is going to repeat, okay? And what I want to make clear is that we're adding something. And we'll talk a little bit later, if you would like, about like the negative sides of this, but what's important to know is that we're encouraging a positive behavior by adding something. So I know as parents, we tend to get sometimes we're frustrated, we have a lot in our minds, and we tend to focus on what's the negative things that are happening. So if a kid is misbehaving, or if they're making a mess, we tend to just acknowledge these negative things. But what we want to do with positive reinforcement is actually acknowledge the positive behaviors. And so when we acknowledge it, and that's by adding something, and we'll talk later about the strategies, but when we acknowledge the positive instead of just focusing on the negative, there's more likelihood that the positive is going to occur, right? So I wrote here an example. I know as parents, sometimes we do this, and I think it's important to clarify that sometimes positive reinforcement is not good. And a really clear example is if we're at a store and our kid has some kind of, gets really upset because we're not getting them something. So then we decide to buy them an ice cream and get it, right? And give him the ice cream to make things better. And we might think this is positive, right? Because we're adding something to make things better. However, what we're reinforcing there is the negative behavior. And the negative behavior was the kid being really upset about not getting what he wanted, right? So basically we're saying he's going to get something if he gets upset and does some kind of temper tantrum, okay? So again, the idea is to use this when we're seeing positive things. And when we talk about positive reinforcements, we talk about 4 different types. So the natural reinforcers, which occur directly as a result of behavior. So if a student is actually doing all their homework, they're studying for their exams, they're doing everything they're supposed to do, and they get a good grade. So the good grade is the positive reinforcement, okay? The token reinforcers are those that are awarded for performing certain behaviors, okay? So if we have any kind of reward systems, I know as parents, we tend to create all kinds of plans. So sometimes we talk about maybe creating charts where we're putting a sticker if the kid completes a chore, and if the chores are done by the end of the week and the kid has more than 5 stickers, then we're going to reward them with something, right? The social reinforcers are those that talk about expressing their approval. So like saying something like good job, or you did or that was really nice, right? And the tangible reinforcers are more like gifts, okay? And when we talk about different ways we can utilize this, and I'll just give an example. Even as adults, we can, let's say I'm going into a store, right? And I notice there's people behind me and I open the door for them, right? If the person that I let in before I do, and I open the door and they're really nice and they say, thank you so much for opening the door for me. The reality is that there's higher chances that we're going to do this again for another person because they were nice to us and they gave us a positive affirmation for our behavior, right? But if the person doesn't even acknowledge us and keeps on walking, there's less chances of us doing that. So it's similar, right? And I can tell you as an adult, even as an adult in my job, when someone says that I did a good job, this motivates me to keep working and do more, okay? Anyone has any questions about that so far? Okay, so there's different ways that we can reinforce positive behavior. And one of those is giving a high five, offering praise. So I wanna be clear that even though we heard something like good job, it's important that when we're giving praise that we're as specific as possible so the youth know exactly what is it that we're praising, and that we do it as soon as the behavior is done. So if they help us cleaning the dishes, for example, that we do it as soon as it's done or while we're doing it, so they recognize that we're giving the praise for what we're doing in the moment. Because if we do it later on, they might not recognize that relationship between their behavior and what they're being praised on. So giving a hug or a pat on the back, giving a thumbs up, clapping and cheering, telling another adult, telling the spouse or a teacher, another adult that's right there in the room with us, and letting them know that they did a really good job and why they did a good job, and then giving extra privileges and giving tangible rewards. So I know this sounds really easy, but in theory it can be hard. And I wanted to know what you think about it. If it's a strategy that you've tried or you think it wouldn't work with your kid.
Yeah, I guess, Maria, in light of people are being at home a whole lot more now, and some of you might be working from home or have other family responsibilities. Obviously, everybody being, looks like somebody just joined us. Thank you for joining us. We're just having a conversation about kind of managing behavior at home. But how are you all, what's working for you? And what would you do differently in light of trying to manage or work with your child to support them during this time? So are you seeing more acting out? And if you are, how are you responding to that? And is it working for you, or what would you be doing differently?
Hi, it's Stacy. I would say for my 7, soon to be 8-year-old, I have noticed he's losing some of the social skills. I think becoming a little bit more introverted. I guess can't really tell because there's not a lot of interaction anyhow, right? At his school was very pro Zoom, and was on from 8 to noon with teachers and all 30 students. And since that has ended and he's not participating in summer camp, and I am a full-time attorney working from home, it's been a challenge to monitor what he's doing and give either positive reinforcement or the opposite discipline. But we do sit down for dinner every night, and it seems he's really craving a lot of attention. So I'm trying to find other ways to provide additional support and interaction without it being tech related, since some of his buddies are playing Roblox and things like that, and that's a way that they can communicate with each other. Conversely, my 12-year-old is able to do sailing camp, which was camp. She's on the race team, so they're in their individual boats. And that was actually a positive reward for pushing through distance learning because it's quite expensive. And she's thankful each day, but equally is tired. So I'm trying to balance also that she gets to do something, but he doesn't, but it's because there's not a lot offered for his age. At this time, I think there is later in the summer if you're able to commit to 3-week cohorts and so on and so forth. But because of the age disparity, there's not a lot that they can do at the same time in the same programs. So I'm trying to balance, I guess, through my actions to give him enough attention and interaction. And I don't know that I'm successfully doing that. How about that? And we've done sticker charts and all of that kind of, stuff for chores and potty training even, and that sort of thing. So I'm totally on board with immediate positive or earning, goal-oriented type things. So just as a very quick example, he does Lexia on his computer, and he does about 60 to 100 minutes a week is the encouraged amount over the summer. And he came upstairs and said, my home office upstairs in my bedroom, since they have their own offices, he said, well, if I finish all of the second half of, I don't know, level 11, can I have a Robux card, gift card? And I'm like, no, it's not the immediate, and I don't want you to just speed through it because you want that end goal, right? So it's all about balance, and I'm struggling because we're at home with that balance. It's a little bit easier when they're away from the home for a bit and come back. If that makes sense. And there's not a lot of things that we would maybe, hey, we can go get an ice cream or we can go do this. There's not a lot of things outside the house that we can do for positive reinforcement. They just opened up Muir, or they just opened up some of the bike trails and things like that. We live in Sausalito. They just opened up Schoonmaker Beach within walking distance. So, there's just some things that are now coming back, but because so much of it is limited, I feel like, words do go far, but not always far enough if there isn't some sort of familial action.
You make a lot of really good points. Thank you, Stacy. And I think also what's important from what you say and you shared is that you're also working full time. So it's not like you have all day to just create activities and do certain stuff with your son. So thank you for sharing. And I'm wondering if there's other parents that are experiencing similar situations like Stacy just shared.
And I guess just to note, my husband is active duty United States Coast Guard, so he's also working, but he is working out of the house on the base and paddle room at this point is where they need him. So he's around, not around. More around if he was out to than if he were out to sea, right? But he's not. He's working full time as well. So 2 full-time parents, one's at home, one's out of the house.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to share? Maybe even.
Yes, I would like to. I would like to say that during this terribly difficult time of isolation for children, away from their friends, away from their activities, I say that some of them seem, in my opinion, to be suffering from this. And it's a loss, and like any other loss would be. And this time is so challenging for parents that a lot of times the children hear a lot of things in the background that they don't quite understand, and they put it together in their own way. And I think some of them are actually in tremendous states at different times of depression. I think that they just are missing so much of what they had. And to find ways to evolve through this slowly and properly, and how to give information, I think would be a great thing for you folks to impart to some of us, because it is difficult. And I prefer a lot of times I taught for 30 years in special education and such, and I prefer for children a lot of intangible rewards having to do with time spent with one parent away from the other and the child together, of going together to some special little park or something. But even a parent doing some of the one chore, say, of the child's during the week, because they noticed and they spoke about the positive reinforcers, as you suggest, of good behavior, or behavior that's at least accepted. So I would like to see a little bit more of what we could do as parents and grandparents to support some of this loss for the children. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. And I do want to say that next week we will be talking about effective strategies to support loneliness and isolation due to a lack of peer interactions. And I believe we'll be able to dive more into like a concrete and specific strategies to deal with that. Because you're right, a lot of kids are dealing with a lot right now. And as parents, we're going through it, and we're noticing different changes. And so for some of us, we might even come later on that will notice these changes. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone
Thank you.
like to share?
I wanted to acknowledge Stacy's comments, right? I mean, this is a real tension where, as you mentioned, your daughter is able to sail. And so she's getting out of the house and she's doing something she really likes and gives her a sense of freedom and independence from mom. And then to be 8 is a different age, right? And he's got different interests and different needs. I'm wondering, Stacy, how can we support you? Are you interested in, resources? I was just thinking in terms of what Shirley was sharing, and I'm with you. I think nighttime or dinner time is a great way for everybody to kind of connect without technology and to kind of debrief on the day. And I agree. I like the idea of trying to steal moments in the day where we can just connect outside of the house, whether it's on the porch or whatever everybody's environment is, and just to steal 10 minutes, 15 minutes of time with one another to do a small activity. How can we best support you?
So I agree with Shirley wholeheartedly. I think there's a tremendous sense of, loss. I mean, especially at the beginning. I know my daughter was in the final stages of cotillion and all these fun things, and the end of the basketball season. It was the last game and blah, that sort of stuff. And just the day-to-day peer. So when we're talking about behavior, I guess I was trying to make the connection that because of the isolation, which I know you're going to talk about next week, they're interconnected, right? Their behaviors are changing because of the situation we're in. So we have to adapt as parents in giving different, or I guess maneuvering what our positive reinforcements are, because they're not necessarily I don't have the same ability to do some of the things that really worked. So from a support perspective, sure, resources would be great. I mean, I think some of your slide, Maria, had things that I think may have worked if we weren't all in isolation or quarantining and sort of almost ramping up for another, I guess, more serious situation, just as we thought we were coming back around and having additional or back to some normalcy. So I guess some activities that might encourage positive behavior. And we do a lot of around here we do gardening. I mean, it's not all, some of it is tangible and some of it is not, right? Just being there and giving a hug, we're doing all that. It's just really a unique time, and I don't really know how to quite put my finger on it, and hence why I'm speaking to you all, right? But it is, I agree, it's a tremendous loss, and I don't know. It's an interesting and trying time.
I like the good enough theory. I think our standards right now have to shift a little bit. I know that our pre-COVID life and what we're experiencing now. I don't know. Right now, I almost feel like I have to let go of certain things, but acknowledge the pain and the disappointment that they're experiencing. And for each of the different stages of development, they'll express their grief in different ways and their loss and their sadness in different ways. So I do try and validate that, try and create a little bit of structure. I do try and do that. I try and let go of those things that just don't matter the way they used to matter before. I think the closet is a public health hazard. I've never seen anything, my kids just cramming junk in their closet. And I say, all right, that doesn't bother me. But to try and create some type of structure has been helpful. Knowing that they can rely on an evening time event is something that we look forward to. Trying to play games where we can. But yeah, I agree with Shirley and Stacy, kind of acknowledging the disappointments. And we've all had to kind of adjust. They've adjusted really well. But I like the phrase good enough. That's my goal.
Yeah, no, I think that's helpful. And we have, I don't want to say instituted structure, but there's a get up time and breakfast is still served. And that's just because it's easier for me, sorry, to do it and then have them come down. But for instance, we traditionally I'm from Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and I have a sister who lives in Berlin, Germany, and they're actually still flying over. They got tested today. They're not COVID positive, so I guess they're allowed entry. I have no idea, but I have put it on pause. But it is our big family reunion. And when I say big, I mean 8 of us at the beach, lobster clam bake. And it's more a 4 to 8 week, and I can work remotely. So I work from there. and I'm having to temper their expectations of not going. Have you bought plane tickets yet? When are we going to see Grandpa? When are we going to see the cousins we only see once a year? It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes, it is a lot.
And I'm not really sure, to your point, Maria, like when, they're not, from a behavioral perspective, massively, acting out, if you will. But I feel like at any time something, like I just feel like it's such a fragile situation that it will come out and manifest in some way. I'm not really sure how yet, but it may be like that, like when the cousins arrive on Cape Cod and we're getting FaceTime from them, or you know what I mean? Like, and we're not there, that the behaviors will change again, It's a fluid situation, and I agree, I think good enough, and cutting ourselves some slack is okay. But it's hard. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate the acknowledgement that this is actually a really hard time, and there's no manual, there's nothing that we can look back and say, oh, during these times parents can do this, because it's not like that, right? And I like the good enough strategy, and I like also having structure to the days that are really important. Kids, when they're going to schools, they're used to having a routine. So I really encourage that. And you could create calendars where they're able to see clearly when they're going to have like activities that are more enjoyable, and that would be able to give them some sense of security. And yes, unfortunately, some kids are very vocal and are able to share their disappointment about the situation. Some kids might take longer to actually express how they're feeling, or their way of expressing it might be not verbal, but in other ways. And it's going to require a lot of creativity and a lot of openness from us being parents, and being able to sit with them and say, yeah, you have all the right to be upset. You have all the right. This is a really confusing and hard time. And that's what's going to be important, our ability to really sit down with them and give them the space to grieve and to experience the loss that they're experiencing from not being able to spend time with their cousins, or not being able to do the activities they were used to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's only, we've done a lot of games and puzzles and lots of cooking, jam, baking, you name it. We've been doing it. It just is, yeah, I mean, and, I think also to Shirley, I believe it was, her point of, intangibles, but also then I believe she mentioned there's some chatter, right, amongst adults and even peers, probably for the 12/13-year-olds, about what's going on, what's happening, and having a red flag warning for fire just the other day. They're like, this is already happening? I'm like, again, on top of this, I'm like, yes. It's very windy. This is the season. And so now it's like another thing that's compounding on top of the current situation. So, I want to be I'm a believer that knowledge is power. I do think, not all knowledge is necessary to share with your children. But when it's, every time you turn on the television, it's on, and, I don't want to have them just in a total bubble either. I mean, they know they're not going to the grocery stores on the regular, actually almost ever themselves. But, it's like, how much do we share also, right? Again, each child is very different in what they can take in and process. The older one is incredibly empathetic and gets very distraught when she hears that somebody doesn't have enough food or what have you. So it's hard where we would normally jump in and be volunteers, which would be a really great way to, I think, help them process. But I have severe asthma, so I've been really reluctant to throw our family into that situation where we would normally be volunteering at this time.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And I've made a note because I think you both brought really important topics, and it is how to talk with kids. And that's a conversation that's going to depend also on the age. And I'm noticing the time, and we're running out of time actually. So I do want to give you a resource, and it is this page that we worked with different counties, and I'm going to write it down on the chat box so you can access it. And that page basically has resources. Like I was saying, we created it with different surrounding counties, with the CDC Foundation and the Zuckerberg Foundation, and it has resources for youth, all kinds of topics. So you can have information here about how to help others, how to help themselves, and there's articles, there's a lot of different information. And if you scroll to the bottom, there's also a tab for parents, and you can also find more resources there. So this might be a good side when you're talking with your kids to show them and let them know, hey, there's this resource where you can see if you have any questions, right? But we're making a note, and we'll definitely dedicate some time, hopefully in the next parent conversation, to talk about that, because I think it's really important.
How does one get into the chat when you're not on this program to look at the resources?
So I just put, are you able to see the chat?
I see the chat that I
Okay.
could choose, but it seems like it's connected to this program.
So if you click on the link, there's going to be a different page pop up, and you'll be able to have the link outside of the program.
So there's one listed on the notice you put out, how to do that to get to the chat.
Oh, there's not, okay, 1 second. Hold on, because apparently there's not a link.
I saw your screenshot with
Okay,
the
sorry.
crushing the curve got me, but sorry, yep.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so if you click on that link, a different website is going to pop up with the website that I just showed you. Are you able to see it now, Shirley?
No, no. There was something flashed across the screen, but it left immediately.
Okay, would you like me to send you an email with the?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah, how to get to the chat. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm very computer
That's okay.
deprived.
Also, if there's a tab at the bottom of your screen, if you move your mouse or if you move your finger, if you're on a cell phone, and at the bottom there's a tab that says chat and has different icons. If you click on chat, it'll pop up, but I could send you the link separately for you to have it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you for all your time, both of you, and your expertise. Everything helps everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're really hoping to make this a space where parents are able to talk and share. So thank you so much for participating. Again, we're doing this every Tuesday at 12. It's supposed to be half an hour. We're noticing we're always going a little longer because it's really important right now. So invite your neighbors, your coworkers, or anyone that you think could use it. We are also doing one in Spanish Mondays at 12, and I believe they're also sending information about that, so let people know. And thank you so much for joining us and for being open to sharing with the rest of us.
Thank you very much. And as Maria said, we'll plan on seeing you next week. Monday is the Spanish one. Is that right, Maria?
Yes, Mondays at noon also.
Excellent. Well, if there are no further questions, we'll conclude for today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you again for participating. And thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Cara. And thank you all.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.